On the evening of August 28, 2023, a quiet Greenwood neighborhood was broken by a gunshot. Minutes later, a wife found her husband dying near the door of their garage. Investigators would say the shot came from outside, through a window, and struck Shaun Michael Moran in the back. The accused was not a stranger passing through the neighborhood. He was Shaun's own son, Jacob Moran. What followed was a case built around a day of escalating violence, a threat to return with a gun, and a hurried escape that ended in another state. Before we continue, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Your support helps us keep telling these stories with care, clarity, and respect for the people whose lives were changed forever. Shaun Michael Moran was born on June 30th, 1978, and was 45 years old when he died. He lived in Greenwood, Indiana, with his wife, Melissa, their 3-year-old daughter, Melissa's sons, and Shaun's son, Jacob. According to court records, Jacob had been staying in the garage after telling his father that he was homeless. The arrangement had become strained. Shaun told police that Jacob had been causing problems in the home, including being verbally aggressive and disrespectful toward property. The first emergency call came at about 1:30 that afternoon. Shaun had told Jacob to leave and take his belongings with him. The argument became physical, and family members intervened. One of Melissa's sons pulled Jacob away from Shaun and escorted him out of the house. Police were called, and the immediate danger appeared to have passed. But the day was not over. Several hours later, Jacob returned. According to the evidence presented in court, he pushed his way into the house and headed toward Shaun. Another physical confrontation followed, and family members again had to separate them. This second attack was described as more aggressive than the first. As Jacob was being forced back out of the home, he looked toward his father and threatened, "I'll be back with my piece." In the language of the case, piece referred to a gun. Shaun's family had reason to take the threat seriously. Investigators later learned that Jacob was known to carry a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson handgun. Shaun asked police about extra patrols in case Jacob came back. That request captured the fear inside the home. The family had already called for help twice, and now they were worried that the conflict could become even more dangerous. That evening, Shaun went into the garage. He was gathering Jacob's belongings and securing the property. Around the same time, a neighbor walking a dog noticed a white BMW moving slowly toward the area from the back way. The vehicle was close enough for the neighbor to observe it clearly. After the BMW stopped, the neighbor went inside, closed the door, and heard a gunshot. The neighbor looked outside and saw a man running back to the BMW. The car pulled away. The neighbor called 911. Inside the house, Melissa heard what she described as an extremely loud shot, followed by the sound of her husband. She went toward the garage and found Shaun near the door, face down, with blood pooling beneath him. A second emergency call came from the home, with Melissa screaming that someone had killed her husband. Officers arrived within minutes. The scene indicated that the shooter had been outside the garage. A .40 caliber shell casing was found in the grassy area near the driveway, outside an open garage window. From that window, officers testified that a person standing outside could see clearly into the garage. Shaun's autopsy determined that the fatal wound was a gunshot wound to the back. The investigation quickly focused on Jacob. Police used license plate reader information to track the white BMW. Later that night, Jacob went to an ATM and withdrew $320. He also purchased a Garmin GPS at a Walmart in Lebanon. Around midnight, he visited his mother. She described him as emotional, upset, pacing, and crying. After speaking with him, she went to the police station because she feared Shaun might still be alive and in need of help. According to her recorded statement to police, Jacob told his mother that he had seen Shaun through the garage window, going through his belongings. He reportedly said he had yelled at Shaun and then fired through the window. He indicated that he had shot Shaun in the back. Charging documents also reported that Jacob said he heard Shaun scream, that the gun jammed, and that he did not know whether he would have kept shooting. He reportedly said the gun was still in the car and that he planned to get rid of it. By the early morning hours, Jacob was no longer in Indiana. Police issued an alert, and the search continued across state lines. At about 9 o'clock on the morning of August 29, Michigan State Police found him near Sturgis. Troopers had been called about a suspicious vehicle, parked along a dead-end road. They also knew that the vehicle was connected to a homicide investigation involving an armed and dangerous suspect. A .40 caliber handgun was found in the BMW, and its serial number matched the gunbox investigators had found among Jacob's belongings in the garage. Jacob was returned to Indiana. On September 7, 2023, prosecutors formally charged him with murder and other offenses connected to the violence earlier that day. The case later expanded to include additional battery, intimidation, and criminal trespass charges, as well as a request for a firearm enhancement. The defense disputed that the evidence proved the necessary intent for murder, arguing in part that Jacob might not have known exactly where Shaun was when he fired. A 4-day jury trial concluded in November 2024. The jury found Jacob guilty as charged. The evidence the jury considered included the earlier physical attacks, the threat to return with a gun, the slow approach toward the home, the shot fired through the garage window, the witness who saw him flee, his statements to his mother, and his movements after the shooting. Prosecutors argued that these details formed one continuous chain rather than a random or accidental event. On January 21, 2025, the trial court imposed an aggregate sentence of 57 years. Jacob appealed, challenging the sufficiency of the evidence supporting the murder conviction. In December 2025, the Indiana Court of Appeals affirmed the judgment. The appellate court held that a jury could reasonably infer intent from the circumstances. A deadly weapon had been fired through a window toward Shaun. The shooting followed 2 violent confrontations and a threat, and Jacob left the scene and fled to Michigan afterward. The legal record gives us the sequence of events, but it cannot fully describe the loss behind it. Shaun Moran was more than a name in a court file. He was a husband, a father, and a member of a family whose home became the center of a fatal crisis. This case also shows how quickly domestic conflict can move from argument to physical violence, from fear to emergency calls, and from a warning to irreversible harm. Every threat involving a weapon deserves to be taken seriously, and every person facing immediate danger deserves a safe path to help. The case of Shaun Michael Moran ended in a conviction, but the consequences did not end in the courtroom. A family was left to grieve, a neighborhood was left with the memory of a single gunshot, and a son received decades in prison for killing his father. The facts are stark. A conflict, a threat, a return, a shot through a window, and a flight that crossed state lines. That is the timeline preserved in the court record. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.